Hello, my name is Jaden, and welcome to my channel. I'm a King James Bible Believer street preacher based in New York City. Today's study is going to be on the book of Revelation. I'm not going to go into like the crazy deep doctrines, but I actually just want to make this video to help you have a cohesive understanding of the different interpretations on the book. And I just want to show you the divisions in the book so that it can help you to study it on your own. Now, I just want to say I appreciate the people that actually sit to watch the whole video when I make these videos, because I spend a lot of time making them. And I have these goofballs that watch like 2 seconds and then they slander me. But for those who are actually learning and getting something, I pray you get a blessing. I'm not doing this for money. This is not a game to me. I take this really seriously. So, all right. So, the book of Revelation. So, what is the big controversy with the book of Revelation? Well, there are 3 ways to interpret the book, and those interpretations are going to dictate how the rest of your theology is going to go. If you have the wrong interpretation on the book of Revelation, or just in general, you're going to be confused. You're going to be a heretic. You say, why? Because 2 of the 3 interpretations are going to teach some of the most evil and anti-God heresies that exist, like, ever. So let's just go through this. So one of the problems with Christianity is that we have been under grace so long, especially if you're in America, you really have it a lot better than most people, that Christians cannot understand and fathom the things in the book of Revelation. So one of the issues in interpreting the book is that you're very tempted to allegorize everything because you can't tell how much of it is literal. One of the basic laws in Bible interpretations is to take everything as literal as possible until you can't. Some of the stuff in the book is so crazy that you're just like, I'm not sure if to take this literal or allegorically or both. And so, to be honest, if you're a newer Christian, you should not even be messing around with the book of Revelation, to be quite honest. A lot of the people that talk about this book online and talk about end time prophecy, well, most of the channels online that talk about end times are anti-Israel. So what are they worrying about end times for? Most of the end time prophecies have to do with the nation of Israel, right? People are so kooky. So let me just lay out for you the 3 interpretations, go through each one, show you which one is correct, and then I'm going to show you some basic tips on how to study the book for those that are interested in studying prophecy, okay? All right. Let's see if you see the board. Yeah, you can see the board. All right. Let's do the worst of the 3, or what I think to be the worst of the 3. The worst of them is called amillennialism. Amillennial. Now, this is going to fall under the study of preterism. Preterism. The next one that's going to be on this list is going to be called post-millennialism. Post-millennialism. This is going to fall under the category of the hermeneutics that's called historic. The historic interpretations. Let me write interpretation for you. Preterism interpretation, and then it's going to be historic interpretation. Now, the last one is going to be called premillennialism. This is going to be what's called the futurist interpretation. Futurist. Okay. So there are these 3 categories of interpretations revolving around the book of Revelation. If you have the wrong interpretation, you are going to teach some damnable heresies. Okay, you're going to teach some damnable heresies. There are things on my channel I've taught that you're going to start seeing come up that you don't have to agree with. You don't have to agree with the Genesis gap. You don't have to agree with the way that I teach the fall of Lucifer. You don't have to agree with that stuff. That stuff is super meaty, deep doctrine, and I teach it because it's cool for you to know, but Bible says not to be acclimated with strange meats, right? Because it hasn't profited them, they have been occupied thereby, right? But there are some doctrines in the Bible that are not up for debate. The restoration of Israel is not up for debate. Eternal security is not up for debate. dispensationalism, correct dispensationalism, not hyper dispensationalism, not covenant theology, real dispensationalism, dispensational salvations. There are some things that are just not up for debate. Yeah, salvation is always the same from beginning to end. You are confused. And it's covenant theology. If you believe salvation is the same from Genesis to Revelation, you are a Calvinist because that's what they teach. That line of thinking came from that. So there are things in the scriptures, theologically, that are not up for debate. This is going to be one of those things. So if you fall into the category of these two, which I'm going to go into, and you are teaching this, and you believe this, you are confused. You need to change and repent. All right. Now, let's go in order. Amillennialism, who teaches this? This is going to be the theology of the Catholics. This is going to be the theology of Calvinism, especially 5-point Calvinism. This is going to be the theology of pretty much all the hyper-educated Christians. So if you want to even say like any of the, like even a lot of Protestants in general are getting messed up with this. Now, amillennialism is called the allegorical. It's very allegorical in its interpretation. What does allegorical mean? That means that when they're reading the scriptures, they don't take the text literally like it says. So they say, no, when you're reading that verse, it doesn't literally mean what it says it means. That's the allegorical interpretation. Catholics love that interpretation because they can just twist the verses and make anything mean what they want it to mean. Right? Because it's just your interpretation, right? Like, haven't you ever dealt with a Catholic and you try to tell them something from the scriptures and their immediate response to you is, well, that's just your interpretation. And you didn't interpret anything, you just read what the text said. Yeah, that's what this is. Now, amillennialism is allegorical, and what it teaches is that there is no resurrection. No resurrection. It also teaches that there's no millennial kingdom, no 1,000-year kingdom. Now, these hypocrites, they're going to run their mouth in my comments when they see this video, and they're going to say, you're misrepresenting us. That's not what we teach. That's literally what they teach. They teach that when you get born again, that's the spiritual resurrection, and there's no kingdom. There's no 1,000-year kingdom. That's literally what they teach. Go argue with a Calvinist for like 30 minutes. Calvinists are some of the most pathetic human beings. You will go in a circle like this, and they will tell you that's not really what we believe. And then you'll talk to them for like 2 hours. Come to find out, what you said they believed is exactly what they believe because they're confused. So they teach there's no resurrection. There's no 1,000-year kingdom. Let me show you what Paul said about people who teach this. Go to the book of 1 Timothy. All right, 1 Timothy. Look at verse 19. Chapter 1:19. Holding faith and have a good conscience, which some have put away concerning faith, have made shipwreck. Somebody's faith was made shipwreck, of whom is Hymenaeus and Alexander, whom I have delivered unto Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme. What? He said that he delivered these people up to the devil so that they wouldn't blaspheme. These guys are named as Hymenaeus and Alexander. Hymenaeus and Alexander. What was it? Isn't the loving Paul? He's not supposed to say that. Why would he say that? You know why he delivered them up to the devil? Go to 2 Timothy. I'll show you why. Look what they were teaching. 2 Timothy. All right. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 16. But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness. For their word will eat as doth a canker. He called it a cancer. Of whom is Hymenaeus and Philetus, who concerning the truth have erred, saying that the resurrection is past already, and overthrow the faith of some. These knuckleheads were teaching exactly what the amillennialists teach, that the resurrection happened already in the past. And we're just here chilling. Does that even sound like it makes sense? In order for them to get this interpretation, they just have to ignore like 400 verses in the Bible about the literal second coming of Christ. So these guys teach that there's no millennial kingdom, and this is the theology of hyper-educated scholars that can't read. And you need to avoid this stuff like the plague. This stuff is from the pit of hell. They can't prove this. They have to philosophize, take a couple verses, and then go in a circle. There's nothing in the Bible that ever indicates anything like this. There are at least 500 verses on the second coming of Christ. By the way, in the book of Revelation, the term 1,000 years shows up 6 times. God wanted you to make sure you believe that there was a kingdom coming, so he put it 6 times in the passage. This is nonsense. This is the theology of the Catholic Church, and they love that stuff because if there's no kingdom, they can keep their little kingdom, their little spiritual priesthood right now, and reign on earth. Right? That's why it's pretty for them. Calvinism is the same thing. Calvin tried to set up his little church state thing where he burned people alive because they didn't agree with him, and then the Puritans took that stuff to America, and they did the same thing in Salem. That's what this does. Wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. So with these knuckleheads, I'll put a little line graph for you. What they basically believe is like, okay, so Jesus came here. He basically came here. And then after he left, once you get born again in the church, that's it. This is the resurrection. And then after that, there's no kingdom. Wow, no kingdom? Does that even sound like it makes sense? He came, left, you get born again, you get put in the kingdom of God, and then there's no 1,000 years. Paul said he delivered them up to the devil. That is crazy. All right, now preterism. Now, why do they want to do this? There is a politically motivated reason for doing this. There's no theological reason for doing this. The reason why they want to do this is because preterism, which is what falls into amillennialism, falls into what's called, so preterism, as in what came before, right? They want to say that the book of Revelation is past. Why do they want to do this? If this theology came from the Catholic Church. Because as of right now, Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots, is the Catholic Church. There's no doubt about that. So they want to say that Revelation is talking about events that happened in pagan Rome so that they can say that current ecclesiastical Rome is not Mystery Babylon, but it most certainly is. Now, I'll be making a video on Mystery Babylon in the future. I have my own particular thoughts about the future of Mystery Babylon, but Mystery Babylon has been and is the Catholic Church. Just because they went pagan and then became ecclesiastical Rome, it's the same Rome. It's the same horror. So the way they do this is, the first thing they do is they say that the book of Revelation was written in 70 AD. You want to know why they do that? Because that was the destruction of the Second Temple. They want to say that this book was fulfilled when Titus destroyed the Second Temple. And then for them to do that, then they can say, see, the events happened already. And then they can say that there's no kingdom. And you know how many false religions they piggyback off the Catholic Church and do this? Mormonism, Seventh-day Adventism, Jehovah's Witnesses are more dumb. They're taking the tribulations right now. But a lot of these cults, they take after this. They say that the revelation happened already and that they had to get a new prophet to reveal what was going to come in the future because that's it. John got it. John fulfilled the prophecy with Titus. Well, that's nonsense. That's just complete nonsense. This date is a private interpretation. Every single consistent chronologist has the book of Revelation at 95. First of all, John was on Patmos as a salt slave miner. That wasn't there in 70 AD. What are they talking about? They're confused. These people are confused. This is a political thing for someone to teach this. This has nothing to do with the Bible. It's nowhere in the Bible at all. Right? So, amillennialism is a heresy. This is heretical. A heresy is anything that will prevent someone from getting saved. Now you say, well, why are you calling this a heresy? A person who's not born again is not going to know any of this. Well, because the people that so-called evangelize teach this. Calvinists teach this. So they get someone to come to their church to believe on Christ, and the person doesn't have the correct gospel, and then they're brainwashed with this nonsense. The Catholics are brainwashed with this nonsense. And they think because they're a part of a church system and they do good works in a physical building that makes them a Christian, and then they're damned to hell. What these people do is they brainwash you into believing this. You have to go to school to be taught this nonsense. I didn't say everyone that believes this is unsaved, but most of them are. How could you believe something like this, that the resurrection happened already? Then what are you doing here, buddy? What are you doing in life then? You get resurrected from the dead, the spiritual resurrection, and now you're just here chilling? Does that even make sense? No. No. All right, now this one's really bad. So the historic interpretation, it's called post-millennialism. Now, this has got to be one of the most arrogant forms of theology I've ever read. Okay? What they basically believe is that we are going to bring in 1,000 years of the kingdom, and then Jesus will come in and start Judgment Day, the White Throne Judgment. What? Do these people read the Bible? No. The historic interpretation, what they also believe about the book of Revelation, and is that it is current. They believe that we're going through the book of the events of the book of Revelation right now. They're confused. Now, who teaches this? Protestants. Protestants teach this. Protestants. Evangelicals. Ecumenical groups. Etc., etc. You get my drift. Now, let me just be clear, okay? Because American Christians they have no discernment. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. America's favorite little hero right now is Charlie Kirk. Okay? And everyone was like, wow, he was a great soldier for the faith. Really? He was a part of a group called the NAR. Do you know what the NAR is? White magic occultists. He was friends with the Catholic Church and Mormons. Half of his company are run by Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses. So people are like, he's a great soldier for the faith. He promoted this. This is Christian nationalism. You are not a nationalist. Christian nationalism. You know who Christian nationalism is? That's Pete Hegseth, Lori Loomer, Megyn Kelly. Are any of those people saved? No. They're all Catholics. Real Catholics, not the fake ones that they walk around with a plastic rosary. These are real Catholics. Michael Knowles. All those people are neocon, conservative Roman Catholics who are friends with Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. And Charlie Kirk was friends with them. I'm not saying that to belittle him. He did good for the gospel sometimes, but he compromised and he was hanging out with people that teach heresies from the pit of hell. The last day that he was alive, he was promoting Mormonism. Are Mormons Christian? Christians, I'm probably going to lose some subscribers for this. I don't really care. But Christians have no discernment. The Christian nationalists are the ones who teach this. They want to bring in and make America great again and bring in the kingdom. It's not happening. This nation will go to hell in a handbasket, just like every nation, because the only nation God is interested in right now is Israel. So these American Christians, so-called, are like, oh, we're going to make America great again. We got to follow in the footsteps of Charlie Kirk. He was for the Pope. He wanted to be buddies with the Pope because the Pope was Republican. The Pope's from the pit of hell. That guy's a devil. And now these guys are like, yeah, we gotta get together. We got these, we got these big Christians like Ben Carson. He's a Seventh-day Adventist. Seriously, guys? That's what post-millennialism is. It's popular now because it falls under Christian nationalism. Now, the Protestants, historically, they messed up teaching it because they couldn't figure out the restoration of Israel in the Bible. But like right now, do any of these people have read the Bible cover to cover one time? How could you read the Bible one time, come out believing that we're going to bring in the kingdom? So here's what they say. They say, okay, so Christ came on the cross. And then you get born again. And then after that, we're going to bring in the kingdoms of 1,000 years. And then after that, white throne judgment. And once again, these people are going to say, you're slandering us. That's not really what we believe. That's exactly what they believe. And some of the Catholics in the Crusades were also post-millennial. If they thought that we weren't in the kingdom, there's no kingdom, they thought that they could bring in the kingdom by slaughtering Jews and Christians, and then using the Muslims as an excuse to do so. This is from the pit of hell. You understand? You should not be post-millennial or amillennial. People online are always trying to talk about these topics, very educated, and make them like sugar-coated and try to explain it in big terms. I'm breaking it down for you, literally what they believe. This is nonsense. There's nowhere in the Bible that ever indicates that humanity will ever be good enough to bring in any kingdom. Aren't these professing Christians? They talk about Jesus Christ and all that stuff. Isn't that what they do? That idiot Candace Owens, Christ is king. Yeah, that's an insult. That's what they were saying to him when he was on the cross. And all these Christians are mimicking that. Yeah, Christ is king, Christ is king. That's an insult to God. That's not praise. Christ is not king. He's King of Kings. And you know what's so interesting about all these conservatives that are post-millennial? All of them, but not only the Roman Catholics. They're anti-Israel. You should not be hanging out with those people. I did vote for Trump. But he's doing some devilish stuff. He will be the reason that the mark of the beast comes into play. A golden age, a golden age. Golden age. We're all struggling here. There is no golden age. America's not bringing in any kingdom. This kingdom will fall like everyone before it until Christ shows up. So post-millennialism is from the pit of hell. Not biblical. Okay, now this is the correct interpretation. This is called futurist. Futurist believes that all the events of the book of Revelation are yet future. Are yet future. That's what we believe. This is the correct interpretation. This is the correct one, right? Now, you're going to notice that these two interpretations up here, both of them are very allegorical. They just say that stuff isn't what it means. So in this interpretation, the amillennial, they have it that there's no kingdom. In the postmillennialism, they have it that the church is going to be in the tribulation because we got to bring in the kingdom for the kingdom to start. Well, that's stupid. The church has no part of the tribulation. So what the Catholics do is that in Revelation 12, the woman in the wilderness is Mother Mary. And then what the postmillennialists do, the Protestants, what they do is they have the woman in the wilderness as the bride of Christ. Because they're confused. The bride of that woman in the wilderness is not, it's Israel, dude. I already made a video on that. This is the correct interpretation. This is the correct one. Everything in that book is literal. The parts of it that are allegorical, well, you better be careful when you're reading, right? Okay. Now, you want to read the book of Revelation. Okay. So, what's the problem with the book of Revelation? The problem with the book of Revelation is that it gives history spiritually, but then it gives literal future history. You say, well, what does that even mean? Let me show you. Go to Revelation chapter 1. The book of Revelation tells you how to interpret it. Now, the problem with this book isn't, like I said earlier, it's not so much that it's hard to understand, it's hard to believe. That's the difference, right? Okay. The book of Revelation tells you how to read it. So we're going to look in verse 10. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. That's not Sunday. John is a born-again Christian. You are in the Spirit 24/7, dude. That's not Sunday. The Lord's Day is the second coming in this context. It says, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. Okay. So wherever John got taken, he was supernaturally in the future, somewhere beyond. Okay. So let's do this. Let's do this. By the way, just to clarify, what we believe is that there's going to be the crucifixion, and then he leaves, and then there's the church, And then after the church gets taken out. Then there's 666. And then there's the second coming, and then the kingdom. We believe that Christ will literally reign on the throne of David. He will literally save Israel. He will literally save them from their sins. He will literally reign as a king for 1,000 years. And then you have the white throne judgment. That's the correct interpretation. You get this one by believing what you're reading. So these two are allegorical, but this one is primarily literal. That doesn't mean in the premillennial interpretation that we don't take stuff allegorically, but you try to take it as literal as you can until you can't. That's simple. Now, you see this timeline here? Let's look at this. So John is in the spirit on the Lord's day. All right. He says in verse 18, I am he that liveth and was dead. Behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And I have the keys of hell and of death. Write the things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. Notice how Jesus sectioned off the book for you in the verse. He told you how to read it. Check it out. He said, write the things which thou hast seen. So let's do this, right? If John is in the spirit on the Lord's day, here's John, somewhere in the future. Jesus is telling him, write which thou hast seen, past tense. Well, if John is in the future, what did John see, past tense? The church age. Right? Because he's somewhere in the future. Well, he's saying to write the things which thou hast seen, right? He's talking about the church age. What are the next two chapters in the book of Revelation about that John writes about? The church age. So you have Revelation chapter 2, 2 to 3 is what John has seen. He's talking about what he saw in the past. Right? So this is past. All right. Now, let's keep reading. It's going to say in the verse, write the things which are. Okay. If John in the book of Revelation, he's somewhere in the future and he's writing about what he saw in the past. And the beginning of the book of Revelation starts with the church age. And that means that the things which are for John are going to be the tribulation period. The tribulation period. That means under his feet, that's what he's seeing. That's what's present for him when he's seeing the vision. So what's that going to cover? Well, in Revelation chapter 4, you have John getting supernaturally taken to heaven at the rapture. So there's a rapture here. Right? So you have chapter 2 and 3, write what thou hast seen. Chapter 4, there's a rapture in type. I'll do a study on that in the future when I do more videos on this book. Then after that, you're going to have John write the things which are. Well, after that, what is for him is the tribulation period. So that's going to be Revelation chapter 5, verse 19. See that? Because in chapter 5, you have the tribulation is about to begin. And then chapter 6, you have the start of the Great Tribulation with the seals being opened. And then you have all the other events, right? Okay. Now, after that, he says, and write the things which shall be hereafter. Hereafter. So that's going to be future. Now, what's that going to cover? That's going to cover Revelations. This is going to be what? This is going to be the 1,000 years and eternity. What else? New Jerusalem. Right. The white throne judgment. Right. That's going to be what? Revelation 20 to 22. So for John, he's over there in the future. Write the things which thou hast seen. What is the early part of the book? The church age. He's saying, write the things which are for him, because he's in the future. What is for him is the tribulation period, which is the middle of the book. Then he says, then write the things which shall be hereafter. Or if he's in the middle, right, during the tribulation period, what's hereafter for John? Eternity. 1,000-year kingdom. That's why the book of Revelation ends that way. See that? So these dudes are always, they want to talk to me about Bible interpretation. They haven't made this far. They're confused. You got to set the book up this way. Okay, now I'm going to give you one more tip, and I'm going to close the video out here because I don't want to get too deep into this book. So this is how Jesus sets up the book in terms of sections. But now, in terms of the Great Tribulation, you got to section this off even more. You see what I mean by that? Okay, most people, when they're reading the book of Revelation, the struggle is the chronology. Now, I think I have some of it down to a decent order. I haven't done videos on it yet, but you can't read the book of Revelation in these chapters right here in chronological order. You can't do that. You see, why can't you do that? Because you're going to run into a problem. The problem with doing it this way, trying to read it chronologically, where all the events are happening in a straight line, is that the tribulation period ends 4 times in the book of Revelation. Say, what? Yeah, 4 times. Now, I'm going to give you the divisions. But basically, what you're reading in the book of Revelation is not one consecutive account of what's happening. What you're reading in the book of Revelation is 4 accounts of the same event. Now, why? Bible says in the law of Moses, at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every testimony be established, right? So how many gospels are there about Jesus' first coming? Well, there's 4 gospels about the first coming, the first advent, when God is the one that demands 3 witnesses. So he outdoes himself and then gives you 4, right? So if there are 4 witnesses to Jesus' first coming, shouldn't you have 4 witnesses on his second coming? See that? So then there's going to be 4 witnesses to his second coming, right? Now, the book of Revelation is the longest general dissertation on this topic. So when you're reading on the tribulation period, you're not reading chapter 5 to 19 in order. If the events are not chronologically linear, what you're actually reading is 4 separate accounts of John seeing the same event, just different perspectives. The same way that the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are 4 accounts of similar events, right? So let me make those divisions for you. Let me show you how you know this. Go to Revelation chapter 6. The Great Tribulation begins in Revelation chapter 6. And the first time the book of Revelation ends is going to be in Revelation chapter 6, right? Go to verse 12. I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal. Lo, there was a great earthquake. The sun became as black of hair, sackcloth of hair. The moon became as blood. Keep reading on your own, but then go down to verse 16. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come. Who shall be able to stand? So in chapter 6 of the book of Revelation, in chapter 6, the first account, the first ending of the tribulation is in chapter 6. And what's that going to cover? The seal judgments. The seal judgments. All right. Let me show you the next one. Go to chapter 11. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. Okay. Chapter 11. It says in verse 17, we give thee thanks, O Lord God Almighty, which art, wast, and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. That's a deep verse. 18, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldst give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, them that fear thy name, small and great, etc., etc. And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings, voices, thunderings, and hail, and great hail, earthquake and great hail. Now, if you go and read these chapters on your own in the book of Revelation, what you're going to notice is that chapter 7 all the way to chapter 11 is going to cover the trumpet judgments. So 7 to 11 is going to cover the trumpet judgments. Now, just for time's sake, let me just give you the other ones. chapter 12 to 14 is going to give you the ministry of the Antichrist. So what the dragon happens, the war in heaven, all that. And then what you're going to have is in chapter 15 to 19, you're going to have the vial judgments. So the book of Revelation is split up into 4 accounts of the same event, the same way that the 4 gospels are split up into 4 accounts of similar events. Chapter 6 is the seal judgments. Chapter 7 to 11 is trumpet judgments. Chapter 12 to 14 is about the Antichrist. Chapter 15 to 19 is the vial judgments. And then the tribulation ends, and then you have eternity and New Jerusalem and all that stuff, right? So this is how you study premillennialism, the belief that Jesus will come in to set up the kingdom, literally. This is the correct interpretation of the book, not these 2 knucklehead ones up here, right? I'll put the video out on there. This is a basic study, nothing too crazy for now, because once I start doing studies on the tribulation, you're going to be like, whoa. So make the board available. Grace be to you all.